Welcome back to the Doane College Recording Studio. My name is Spencer Gregg. Today's tutorial, Tutorial 6, is covering a few important shortcuts and keystrokes that will make your recording, mixing, and editing process more efficient. Efficiency is key for being able to get your ideas recorded as soon as they come to your head. If you're busy trying to figure out how to use the software, you're spending too much time on the non-creative aspects of recording. Most of these commands will be simple but still vital. The shortcut commands that we are going to discuss are copy, paste, duplicate, cut, zoom, option swipe on the mouse, clicking where there is not a grid line, adding and minimizing grid lines, expanding and collapsing entire project waveforms, undoing, and tabbing ahead to the next waveform. Okay, let's start with copy and paste. Copy and paste is needed for if you want to take a specific clip that you have recorded and place it somewhere else in the project. The key command for copy is C. You can also use Command C. They do the same thing. Command C is what I am most familiar with, though, from using Microsoft Word. So that tends to be what my mind goes to first. You first need to highlight the specific region that you want to copy, then push C. The key command for paste is V. Once again, you can use Command V just as you could use Command C for copy. To paste what you have copied, go to the area that you want to paste the clip and push V or Command V. Let's say we want to get the kick drum sample that I pulled up from the samples library to be placed multiple times along with the other kick drum samples you can see above. To do so, highlight the kick drum sample and press C or Command C to copy it. Now click on the grid line where that lines up with the others like this. When the cursor is flashing where you want it, press V or Command V to paste the sample. Let's do this again 2 more times for example purposes. Now duplicate. Sometimes you have the same pattern that you want played over and over again, but you don't want to keep pasting single clips. That takes too long. To make the process faster, you can use duplicate. The key command for duplicate is D or Command D. Duplicate can get tricky because if you do not select the correct length of bars, the duplicate copy will not line up like you want. So watch as I duplicate the 3 kick drum samples, as well as the 1 extra measure to make sure that when I duplicate, it will line up perfectly. Now you push D or Command D to duplicate. And just like that, the 3 kick drum samples should line up accordingly to the others above. This works well if you have a very repetitive part and saves a lot of time. Alright, let's try this a couple more times for example purposes. Now for cutting, also known as slicing or blading. The reason we use blading is that we can cut certain parts out of a clip or waveform to make another waveform or clip to use somewhere else. The key command is B or Command B. This is why I refer to it as blading, because the B does not fit with cutting. Let me show you an example of blading. Let's say I didn't want this piece to be where it is. But if I just click and drag, it moves the entire selection, which would mess up where something is placed down the line in the same channel. So instead, I highlight the section that I want to move, then press B to cut both ends of the waveform, creating a new clip that I can now drag wherever I want on the track. Another use for cutting the track is to line up a section that has not been sang, spoken, or played quite in time with the rest of the project. For instance, you come in a split second too early on a word and want to place it a little more accurately so it doesn't sound out of time. Feel free to pause the tutorial and try it for yourself so you can have it down before moving on. Did you pause the video to try it for yourself? If not, I really insist you do. Doing it yourself will make the practice solid. I want you to actually learn these things. Now zoom. Zoom is good for getting close into your project waveforms to see them more clearly. The commands for this are zoom in, T, and zoom out, R. There is not much to the zoom's functionality other than making everything more visible to your needs at the time. However, it is used all the time, so don't think it isn't necessary to remember. A quick tip if you're zoomed in, If you are close in on a project and need to move over on the project to see more of your wavelength, don't bother clicking the scroll bar on the bottom of the session. Instead, use the Magic Mouse's one-finger scroll feature. To do this, place one finger on the mouse and move it horizontally across the mouse. This will scroll your project to the left and right. The mouse does the same function going vertically by using one finger the same way. I have talked a few times about grid lines in this tutorial. Also, think back to tutorial 4 when I talked about the grid lines being able to change the whole, quarter, eighth, 16th, 32nd, and 64th notes. This is extremely helpful when you are trying to line up the songs to stay on beat. The key command for this is Control Option and plus or minus on the right number pad. Clicking Control Option minus will add more grid lines. Clicking Control Option plus will make grid lines go away. Sometimes they get in the way of what you're trying to see or line up, so it's helpful to know both. While talking about grid lines, I'm sure that you have come across a time editing that you have tried to line up, say, a vocal with an instrumental track, so it comes in on beat. Sometimes vocals just don't come in on the grid line, but clicking and dragging has not worked to line it up because it needs to start between the grid lines. To do this, hold Command, then using the grabber tool, which is indicated when the mouse pointer turns into the hand emblem, click the clip that you want, and drag it over slightly. See how now it will go off the grid lines? This is very helpful and important to know. So now, try it for yourself. Go to a clip that you have recorded and hold Command and click it, then drag it off the grid lines. This is important while using crossfading as well, so keep the key command in mind all the time. You will use it a lot. Now to explain how to collapse entire projects. Sometimes after dragging a bunch of waveforms to odd lengths to see them more easily, your edit page starts to get very cluttered, making it hard to find certain channels you need to work on. To condense every track at one time, hold Control, Option, and up or down arrow keys. This will make every track expand or contrast, clearing out the clutter. I recommend that when you do this, since the channels can get very small and hard to read, that you make the channels as small as possible, then bump it up one to make them easier to work with, like this. Also, on tutorial 4, I discussed the waveform size. Remember the 1 through 5 numbers at the top? There is a key command that involves both the keyboard and the Magic Mouse. This is Option and swipe left or right with one finger. By doing this, you can see waveforms get bigger and smaller. Once again, this is an option that you don't always need, but can declutter your project and make things easier to work with. Tabbing ahead can make project editing faster. In doing this, it jumps to the next wave bubble and lines up at the beginning of where the computer thinks the waveform starts. It's not always accurate, so make sure that you double check. This can be combined with cutting and dragging. For instance, if you're editing something, you tab, cut, then drag it where it needs to go quickly. This is a repetitive process that you'll learn to do often. The shortcut for tabbing is the tab key right next to Q on the keyboard, which is pretty easy to remember. Undoing is also important if you accidentally make a mistake, such as a cut or a paste that you didn't really want. The key command for this is Z or Command Z if you prefer. This is fairly self-explanatory. Once again, this tutorial has been very long. It is a lot of information to take in, and it will take multiple times of you using the software to get used to it and remember all the keystrokes. So if you missed anything, please watch these again to confirm you know the keystrokes and shortcuts. Also, you could write them down on a piece of paper so you don't have to constantly be coming back or looking online for the answers. What I'm teaching you in these tutorials I have learned over years of using the software, and doing things quickly won't come natural. It didn't for me, so you have to practice to get to that point. However, it is very worth it if you're interested in this type of thing for a future, because Pro Tools is the industry standard as of now. If you have any questions, be sure to look back at the tutorials, check online, or email the help desk with questions at helpdesk@doane.edu. Keep up the hard work and keep watching these tutorials. They're only here to help you. Once again, I'm Spencer Gregg, and I'll see you at the next video tutorial.